In Escape from Tarkov, as a beginner, you'll quickly realize that the number of guns, attachments, and modifications in the game can be pretty overwhelming. A fresh account will start you with a handful of guns to work with. But what happens when those are all gone, and all you have is level 1 traders? Today, I'm going to help you answer that question, showing you 6 of the best gun builds you can make at level 1, purchasing all parts directly from traders. Before we get into it, you can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/JohnnyBusak or on TikTok under the same name. As stated earlier, this guide assumes you're a beginner with all traders at loyalty level 1 with no access to the flea market and disregards any starting equipment you receive with a new account. It's also assumed that you have the trader Jaeger unlocked, but the quest to unlock him is possible to be completed in your first raid. There will be barter trades included in some of these setups, but the barters I chose only include items which are abundant in the game world and easy to acquire. I also recommend gaining a general understanding of recoil and ergonomic stats, which are explained very well on the performance modifiers page on the Tarkov wiki. With all that stated, let's get into the builds. Starting off, we have the OPSKS. This is a semi-automatic 7.62x39 gun, which will run you about 68,000 rubles for the entire build. The ammo for it, 7.62x39 PS, can be purchased from Prapper, and with 57 damage and 35 pen, it's one of the best budget rounds in the entire game. If you don't yet know how ammo stats work, I highly recommend watching my recent video about them. As for the build, the gun itself can be purchased from Jaeger. You want to opt for the OPSKS over the regular SKS which Prapper sells, since the OP version has the potential to add mounts for sights and tactical devices. You can purchase the Axion Cobra Dovetail mount from Jaeger to do exactly this. The choice of sight you use is purely up to your preference, but I've always believed the Cobra Reflex sight from Jaeger is one of the best options at level 1 traders. At Prapper, you can purchase the sight shade for this sight for only 100 rubles, which bumps up your ergonomics by 3 more points. Over at Skier, you can purchase the tactical blue laser, which can also be placed on your Cobra mount. Having a laser will make point firing much easier and reduce bullet spread when doing so. Initially, your SKS will only have a 10-round internal magazine, which you can top load into by having rounds directly in your pockets or rig. If this doesn't sound ideal to you, you can purchase the 20-round Pro Mag magazine at Peacekeeper. With these, you also have the option to top load from your pockets, but can buy additional magazines and reload between them like other weapons as well. Overall, this build is budget friendly, simple to build, and viable through the entirety of your earlier levels in EFT. Next up, we have the AKM. This fully automatic 7.62x39 gun requires a barter with Prapper of 3 small cans of Tashanka, which can easily be acquired in a single scav raid to interchange. Overall, the entire build will cost you around 39 rubles after the Tashanka trade. Again, the best rounds you can use are the PS rounds from Prapper. To begin the build, you'll need to remove the rear sight, dust cover, and handguard from the gun. You can buy the Bastion dust cover from Skier, which will allow you to add a sight to the weapon. Again, you can choose any sight available to you currently, but I prefer the Cobra with a sight shade. You can also purchase the Zenit RP1 charging handle from Skier, which will give you an extra bump in ergonomics. For the handguard, the AK100 can be purchased from Prapper, which has mounts for both a foregrip and tactical device. We'll be using the tactical blue laser from Skier again, and also be purchasing the Zenit RK6 foregrip from him. Foregrips will usually reduce recoil and increase ergonomics. The only other foregrip option we have at this level is the KAC vertical grip from Peacekeeper, but it does not provide a recoil reduction. As for magazines, we're kind of restricted. You used to be able to purchase 30-round mags for 7.62 AKs for rubles at level 1 traders in the past, but this wipe, they were changed to being available at level 2 traders. We do still have a couple options though. Option 1 is a barter with Prapper for a 6L10 30-round magazine for 1 pair of pliers. These can be found frequently throughout any map. Just look for toolboxes, as pliers are a common spawn within them. Option 2 is over at Skier, who sells a 10-round magazine for rubles. While this doesn't offer you much utility when firing full auto, it can still be viable if you time your shots properly. Lastly, there's always the option to get some 30-round magazines off of many of your scav loadouts. Regardless of which mags you end up using, this build is extremely capable and can hold up very well in fights against PMCs and scavs alike. As an extra note, and for all the AK builds moving forward, you're able to swap out the pistol grip for different colors from Prapper, but the ergonomics boost from each at this level will all be the same. Next, we're going to change calibers, opting for the 366 VPO 209. The base gun itself can be purchased from both Jaeger and Skier, but Skier's price is slightly cheaper. The build is pretty much identical to the AKM, so its price sits around the same at 70,000 rubles, including the gun and all required parts. For ammo, we'll be using the EKO rounds from Jaeger, another one of the strongest budget rounds in the game. Again, you'll need to remove the rear sight, dust cover, and handguard from the gun. We'll be buying all the same components we did for the AKM, the Bastion dust cover, blue laser, RP1 charge handle, and RK6 foregrip from Skier, and the AK100 handguard from Prapor. As always, pick whatever sight you like best. For magazines, you have the same options as the AKM, since the majority of 7.62x39 magazines are compatible with 366 rounds and weapons. With this gun though, the 10-round magazines from Skier are much more viable, since the VPO 209 is semi-automatic. Don't let this fool you though. Despite being semi-automatic, it's extremely effective in both close and long range. Up next is the 545 AKS-74U from Prapor. It's one of the higher recoil options from this list, but its stubbiness allows for higher ergonomics and easier maneuverability in close quarters. The entire build will bring you to around 50,000 rubles, a bit cheaper than our previous builds. To begin, you'll just want to remove the handguard as well as the pistol grip if you plan on swapping it out for a different color. A lot of the same components will be purchased here. The RK6 foregrip, RP1 charging handle, and blue laser, all of which can be bought from Skier. We'll be buying a different handguard this time around, specifically compatible with the 74U, which is the Zenit B11, also from Skier. For magazines, we have two 30-round options, the 6L23 and 6L20 from Prapor. While these may seem nearly identical aside from the color, the brown 6L20 actually has a slightly lower malfunction chance than the 6L23, so the 6L20 will be our choice. Lastly, for ammo, we'll be using 545x39 PS, which can be purchased from Prapor. It's slightly less effective overall than 7.62 PS, but still viable for the majority of encounters. Again, this build is a bit higher recoil than the other options on this list, but is still very effective as a close range weapon. The next two options are SMGs, both of which can be purchased from Peacekeeper, starting with the MP5. The gun itself is only purchasable at this level via a barter for 8 brown knives. These are very easy to acquire, as nearly every scav you kill will have either a brown knife or a black knife in their melee weapon slot. We actually don't need to do much modification at all to get this gun completed, costing around only 25,000 for parts. You'll only need the HK low profile scope mount for MP5s, which can be purchased from Peacekeeper for $92. It's compatible with any reflex sight, but ideally, you'll want to choose a sight which has a height which will raise just above the MP5's front sight. The Cobra is a great option for this, but you can also opt for the Aimpoint Micro H2, which is also available from Peacekeeper. You'll need the sight itself, the standard mount, and the spacer to make the sight raised high enough. For magazines, you have 30 rounders available for very cheap from Peacekeeper. The ammo you'll be using is 9x19 green tracers from Mechanic. These don't offer much in terms of penetration, but due to the extremely low recoil and high fire rate of the MP5, nailing face shots should be a breeze. The last build we have for today is the UMP. This can also be purchased from Peacekeeper, but this time for 7 black knives. Again, not much modification will be needed here, costing around 30,000 for the additional parts. We'll just be adding the RK6 foregrip from Skier for slightly lower recoil and the blue laser from Skier for improved point fire accuracy. For a sight, your options are the same as the MP5. Just choose a reflex sight which has a height over the gun's front sight. 25-round magazines can be purchased from Peacekeeper, which are currently our only option for UMP mags in EFT. The rounds we'll be using, 45 FMJ, are also available from Peacekeeper. FMJ rounds have low penetration, but a very significant amount of flesh damage, allowing them to prove useful against any opponent. The UMP itself has a relatively low fire rate and low recoil even when stock, allowing you to easily land your shots exactly where you want them. Realistically, the UMP will be a very usable budget close range weapon for you to use even through your late game fights in EFT. And those are all the builds I put together for you today. Of course, those are not the only options available to you at level 1, but they're some of my personal favorites. Hopefully, seeing these laid out makes the early levels of Tarkov a bit easier for you, or at least opens up some options for you might have not considered before. As always, if you have any questions or suggestions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.